your bills with personal checks? Do you then drop the bills in a mailbox for pickup? Well, tonight, Primetime does some detective work on a crime that is sweeping the country. As Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace found out, the thieves may be right at your doorstep.
What you're looking at is check washing up close. Watch as this check is dipped into a common household chemical. The handwriting lifts right off the check. In moments, a thief has a blank check ready to rewrite for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. We'll show you exactly how it's done a little later. Had you ever heard of check washing before?
No, not ever. Never dreamed of such a thing.
It happened last year to Patricia Reed of Miami. She noticed on her bank statement that 4 checks came back that had clearly been altered.
I had written Sears a $13.72 check, and that check came up as having been written $730. Not my handwriting or anything.
Written to somebody you didn't know for an amount you hadn't written out.
Right.
Mark Gray is the postal inspector in charge of South Florida. He and Inspector Rafael Rivera have been chasing check washers for almost 4 years. They told of the damage done by just one gang. How many people did they victimize?
175 we've been able to determine.
And how much money did they make? How much did they cash checks for?
We've totaled over $650,000.
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
It's a scam across the country. In Las Vegas, police have arrested dozens of gangs that wash checks and then cash them in casinos. In Omaha, a woman has been charged for running a ring that stole more than $20,000. Authorities estimate that nationwide, check washing could be up to a $2 billion a year operation.
Well, I'm amazed everybody ain't doing it.
Olin Singletary knows all about check washing. We went to a prison near Panama City, Florida, where he's doing 5 years for running his own ring.
You can start out 8 o'clock in the morning and be cashing a check at the bank at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Having washed it, dried it,
everything,
rewritten it?
A bunch of crisp $100 bills in your back pocket.
Primetime got an inside look at how the scam works. The first step is getting the checks by stealing people's mail. Take a look at this undercover video shot by postal inspectors in 1990. A Florida man who authorities say was involved in check fraud pries open an apartment complex collection box and starts pulling out letters. Olin Singletary had a different method. He cruised nice neighborhoods early in the morning, looking for mailboxes at the end of driveways with the flag up. A signal not only to the postman, but to a thief.
If there's any mail in there, snatch the mail out, close it, put the flag back down, and drive along.
How many checks did you steal a day?
Well, between, I'd say, the 30th of the month and the 1st of the month, sometime you can steal up to 100 checks.
But check stealing can get a lot bigger than that. Postal inspectors say 2 Cuban immigrants, Amato Pozo and Luis Cosio, ran separate check-washing gangs in South Florida that all told had 200 operatives who stole thousands of letters and made almost $1 million. Sometimes they say checks were stolen right out of U.S. mailboxes. I've seen the slots in mailboxes. How do you get your hand in there?
Well, if it's full to the top, sometimes you can actually reach in and touch the mail. Or you get a person with a thin arm, or maybe a young child to reach in.
Are you serious? They would get kids with skinny arms to reach into the mailbox?
Yes.
And Rivera clued us in to even more ingenious methods.
They get one of those sticky type of mouse traps, put a string around it, put it inside the mailbox, see if they get lucky that something will stick to it and pull it out. Or if they're unsuccessful, for example, they will rip it open with a crowbar of some sort.
They were really determined to get this mail, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
If you want some idea how bold this operation was, this was one of their targets. A row of mailboxes right in front of that post office here in Miami. They would wait until dark, then break into these boxes and steal hundreds of letters, looking for checks they could wash so they could clean out people's accounts. Sometimes the thieves were so determined they would unbolt the screws and steal the whole mailbox. Postal inspectors found 5 empty collection boxes in canals and vacant lots. Once they have your checks, the next step is to wash them. Olin Singletary says he learned the formula by trial and error. The key, he says, is to find the right mix of solutions. to wash off the handwriting, but not the check's printed material. How long did it take you to come up with the right mix?
A day or two, I mean, I figured it out.
So this wasn't the toughest thing in the world.
Well, it don't take a rocket scientist.
By this point, we were eager to see for ourselves how check washing works. Postal Inspector Jose Gonzalez agreed to show us. He set up 3 trays that he filled with chemicals available at any hardware store. Total cost, less than $10. In order to keep the formula secret, we agreed not to tell the names of the chemicals. Now we have a check here made out to the ABC company.
All right, sir. You see right there, see how the ink is actually starting to lift up.
Yeah. I mean, just instantaneously, you can see it is already starting to blur.
See right here? Shake it up a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
There we go.
It literally is lifting right off the paper.
Yes, it is.
And yet, the printed material, the name of the bank, the name of the account number, I mean, all of that is still there, so that hasn't been destroyed at all. It's just the ink.
Right.
Inspector Gonzalez says that many check washers use a hair dryer or iron to get the wrinkles out. But we let the check just air dry on a paper towel. Incredibly, the entire process took less than 30 minutes. And here is our washed check. I mean, there isn't a trace of ink on that. And without a blow dryer, without an iron,
We just allowed it to air dry.
you can see all the original watermarks in it and the printing. Looks like a check to me.
Brand new.
Ready to write and cash.
And yes, sir.
Once crooks have a blank check, they're ready to fill it out. They often write on the memo line something like carpet installation to make it look more authentic. And we were surprised to learn they generally don't make each check out for too much money, so as not to attract attention when they cash it. But Rivera says some check washers aren't so cautious.
When we got involved in the investigation, most of the amounts were between $400, $500, $600. But we have seen checks for $2,000 and $3,000. We even saw one for $24,000 that they attempted to negotiate.
$24,000?
Right.
Getting the original signature back on the check is the trickiest part. Before they wash it, they usually take a photocopy of the signature and later just trace right over it. But Singletary used a special tracing device with a plastic point on one side and a pen on the other. So John Smith over here, and you're writing it right over that, and this little accordion pen is writing John Smith on
Just
the check.
writing it on the wash check. The check is washed, ready to go.
Once the check is rewritten, the next job is to get the money. Recruiters go out to find people to cash the checks, generally day laborers who look presentable. The check is made out to them or to cash. These cashers often use their own name and ID at the bank and generally get 23% of the profits for their troubles. Olin Singletary, here wearing a cowboy hat and beard, did his cashing himself. He says young female tellers were his favorite target.
Younger tellers is like, big smile on her face, anxious to serve, hurry up, cash your check, fast and speedy service, and get on out the bank.
No complications.
Right, exactly. As few complications as possible.
It was awful. I really felt terrible. I felt violated.
Last spring, Maria St. George got a call from a bank saying someone was trying to cash one of her checks.
I was looking in my checkbook and I said, how could that be? I wrote that check out to USAA for my car insurance.
Did you have any idea what was
I had
going on?
no idea what was going on. I couldn't even fathom it.
It turns out the bank's cameras were rolling and captured a member of Pozo's gang at the teller window. Now, you see that fellow there?
Mm-hmm.
He was cashing a check for $450, one of your washed checks.
I can't believe it.
What do you think when you see that? Here he is at the bank.
Incredible. To take my checks and write them to themselves and cash them. That's not supposed to happen.
Maria got lucky, though, because postal inspectors were closing in. This casher never got his money. He was arrested outside. Later that day, they raided Pozo's hideout and found the whole check-washing operation, including an iron, all their chemicals, and coolers to wash the checks. Maria, does that look familiar?
Is that my check?
That's one of your washed checks.
Can't believe it.
When they raided the place, they found one of your checks still in the cooler.
And they're criminals.
Are you surprised at how bold these guys are?
Yeah, the audacity. You know, here's my check with my home address, with my phone number. They have my signature. I mean, they're like in your living room.
Pozo and Cosio are now behind bars. Both have pleaded guilty to mail theft and bank fraud and could face 6 years in prison.
He's a little nervous.
Postal inspectors say they have arrested 60 alleged gang members and are going after the remaining cashers, who they fear may now be busy starting gangs of their own.
Do you think that you have ended check washing in South Florida?
I think we've put a significant dent in this particular group. We want individuals to feel that when that check is deposited for mailing, it's going to get to the intended recipient.
Like most victims, Patricia Reed says the bank reimbursed her for her losses. But she spent weeks getting her credit straight with the businesses that never got her original checks. She now takes her mail directly to the post office. But no matter what people do, as long as there's money to be made, Olin Singletary says people will be out there washing checks.
How did you feel when you made all that money?
Everybody feels good when they got a pocket full of money. I've never seen the victims. You know, I know they worked hard for the money, but I don't think they was going to miss what we took.
You almost sound like you didn't feel at all guilty about this.
I mean, it ain't something I'm proud of, but I ain't going to lose any sleep over it.